Hey guys, it's Tracy from Nova Scotia Living, and tonight we're going to be making chicken curry masala. I've made this a couple of times before. My mom used to really like these kind of meals, and she couldn't make them herself anymore. She had ALS, so she couldn't move to make them, but she loved them. So I felt like making this today because I had some chicken in the fridge, and yeah, I didn't want just chicken and potatoes tonight. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put the measurements of all these ingredients in the description box down below, so just click on that if you want to see, but I'll briefly go over what I have here. So I cut up some tomato here. It doesn't call, well, it calls for crushed tomatoes, but I had half a tomato in my fridge, so I'm going to use that up. An onion cut up in chunks. In here I have some ginger and garlic. Oh, that's just a ginger. I have a can of coconut milk. It calls for tomato paste, and I have some, but I have this in my cupboard. It's cilantro and tomato cooking sauce. I'm going to use that today just to use it up because it's been sitting in there for quite some time. I want to use it. A little bit of chicken broth. I don't have chicken broth, but this is my turkey bone broth I just canned the other day. If you've seen that video, I'll link it down below if you want to see. But it's, I know exactly what's in here. It's straight up bone broth with some flavoring of onion and carrot and celery. And then I have a can of no added diced tomatoes. I didn't have crushed tomatoes, but whatever you have, just use what you got. And here, I think this is so pretty. I'll insert a picture right here. So you can see what it looks like. But in here, it's a whole bunch of spices. Has some salt, turmeric, garam masala, cumin, coriander, cardamom, pepper, paprika, and a little bit of curry powder. So yeah, isn't that pretty? So pretty. And I have some clarified butter. And what that is just if you were to melt some butter and let it cool, you'd skim off the white stuff that goes on top, and we'd use the liquid substance down below. It's so good. And then I cut up 4 large chicken breasts and chunked it up. So let me move this stuff out of the way, and then we'll start working. Alright guys, I just put that butter over there in the pan and turned it on so it starts melting because we're going to cook up this chicken. You can do the chicken the night ahead of time if you want and put the spices in it and let it sit. I didn't do that just because I just decided this morning this is what I want to make for supper. So I got this recipe off of foodwishes.com. He has a YouTube channel, Chef John. I've done so many things from his channel. I'll put his link down below. He's fantastic. But he recommended mixing the spices. I hate to mess up this beautiful site, but I'm going to. And then we're going to add it to the chicken, because if you were to add them in one by one, it's harder to make sure that all the chicken is coated how it should be. So I'm just going to do a quick little mix around. And then we add it to the chicken. And we try to get this completely covered. I'll bring you back when it's covered, and we're going to add it to the pan. Alright guys, and the butter's all melted. I can hear it starting to snap, crackle, and pop. So you can do this even a couple of hours. I didn't have the time. So I want to get this all mixed up and all coated because we're going to brown up this chicken. And yeah, if you could smell this. Oh, I forgot to cut that one up. I'll cut it up after it's cooked. Doesn't matter. All these spices together, it's very aromatic. It really is. It smells so good. But I just want to make sure I get it all. So this is going to sizzle, guys. Well, not too bad. Better than I thought. I did turn the heat down a bit because it was starting to smoke. But these spice smells are going to even intensify. It's almost like I'm roasting the spices. So it's going to get real good in here. I just have the heat on a 7 because I don't want to burn this. I want to kind of just get a nice coating on it. So I'll bring you back when this is fried up a bit. Just wanted to mention, you just have to keep flipping it over so it gets a nice crust on it. We're not going to cook this so it's completely all dried out or anything, but we want it cooked thoroughly, but with a nice kind of crust on it. And it's baked, like I say, baking those spices right onto the meat. It's so good, so good. It's almost done now. All right, next we're gonna, this is the same pan that we cooked the chicken in. It's just here in the bowl. It's all cooked. And we're gonna saute up the onions and tomatoes. And I just cut up some mushrooms too. I didn't say that in the beginning, but I have a lot of mushrooms in my fridge. This recipe, his recipe didn't call for it, but I'm gonna put some in anyways because we like mushrooms. And it just adds a little more bulk to the meal. So I didn't cut these up super small. They're little like bite-sized pieces of onion. Those are kind of stuck together. But we're going to saute this a little bit to soften them up. And it'll start getting some of that stuff off the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to add the mushrooms and we'll start frying this up together and I'll bring you back. Okay, the vegetables and stuff, I added the half chopped tomato in here too. And you see those mushrooms shrunk right down. And you can see the bigger bite-sized onions, but that's how we do. Now we're supposed to add a little bit of tomato paste. And like I said, I'm using this cilantro tomato cooking sauce. It has tomato paste, ginger, garlic, spices, butter, lime juice, yellow corn flour, sugar, salt, sunflower oil. And this will probably be a little spicier, but I just thought I want to use it up. I'm not the biggest fan of tomato paste. It depends on, I find sometimes that can be overpowering in a dish. And yeah, I want to be able to taste the spices. So we're going to saute this for 5 or 6 minutes until it kind of caramelizes with the vegetables and stuff. So I'll bring you back when this is ready to move on to the next step. Alright, next what we're going to do is add the ginger and garlic. And we just need to do this for a minute or two. Need to get it all in there. Whoop. Mix that in. I couldn't find my little grater for some reason, so I just cut the ginger up as small as possible. It calls for 4 cloves of fresh garlic. I didn't have fresh garlic, so I used the minced garlic I had in my fridge. I used a couple of tablespoons of that. So yeah, we're going to do this for a minute, and then we're going to add the tomatoes, the crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes. Okay, here's the diced tomatoes. I use a full 28 ounce can, 796 milliliters. So let's mix this in. Oh, my mouth's watering already. Now, some of my kids like this kind of stuff. Some of them don't. Some of them are too little for it. So, I'll probably make a separate little supper for the ones that don't care for this kind of a meal, the spice or anything like that. I don't generally do that because I don't run a restaurant. I run a home, but I'm going to make a pot of rice, so I'll just make maybe some veggies or something that we can mix in with the rice, and they can go with that because they don't mind that kind of a meal. So I'll bring this up till it's really nice and bubbling, and yeah, we'll see what comes up next. Alright, the cream's up next. You can use heavy cream, or you can probably even use sour cream. But I'm using the coconut milk, like he says, and I had some in my pantry. We usually have a couple cans in there. We don't use it all the time, but it comes in handy. We had a can of coconut milk. And we're going to let this, I'm going to turn it down to medium-low and let it simmer for 15 minutes. This will give it a chance to kind of thicken up a bit and get all those flavors mixed together. So, yeah, then we'll move on. Okay, next we're going to add a little bit of red pepper flakes and some cilantro. I don't have any fresh cilantro, but I have, let me just put that in. That's some red pepper flakes. Remember guys, the measurements will all be down below. My sister-in-law stopped by the store for me, and it's stir-in cilantro paste. It says 1 tablespoon of cilantro paste. You can tell it's the real cilantro. It's organic. Equals 1 tablespoon of fresh cilantro. So, there we go. We're going to mix this in just real quick, and then we're going to add the chicken to it. Yeah, I tasted the sauce a little bit. It's superb. And the color, I know this camera doesn't pick up the greatest color, but it's beautiful, it is. And the diced tomatoes, I think he used crushed tomatoes. Used diced, so you can see the tomatoes. I think it's all going to turn out the same. And the mushrooms are there. Again, he didn't use mushrooms, but I think you can probably curry anything that you want. So this is just, there's the chicken. And now we're going to mix this in and simmer it for another 10 to 15 minutes. You could eat it now, but is what he said. You can eat it now, but he simmered his for 10 to 15 minutes, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it down on low, though, because this is pretty thick, and I don't want it to scorch or anything like that. It's just going to be on low, and it gives the meat and the sauce a chance to jive together and get to know one another, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to finish mixing this up. I'll set the timer for, I'm going to do 15 minutes because it's on low. It's not going to, I'll make sure I stir it every once in a while. And then we'll be ready for supper. I just need to make a pot of rice, but this is still early in the day. It's only 1:30, but I thought if I make this early in the day, this can sit all afternoon. I'll put it in a bowl and cover it and all that stuff. And then at supper time, I can just reheat it, but it'll give all of these ingredients a chance to sit and kind of marinate with one another. So, yeah, I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Alright guys, it hasn't been quite 15 minutes, but I just shut the burner off because it's thick enough. I want to dig into it right now. I'll make sure I insert a picture here so you can actually see, you know, a better, clearer picture. But I shut the burner off. I'm going to cover it up and let it cool. And in this pot, I'll quickly show you how to make Basmati rice. It's so simple. It's our favorite rice. That's the only kind we ever make. It's so easy. And that'll be a perfect thing to eat this with. You can eat it with naan bread or pita bread or anything like that too. But I'm going to make some white rice. So I'll quickly show you that, and then we'll see what it all looks like when it comes together. Okay guys, here's the plate when it's all together. Chef John called for some, you know, cilantro on top for garnish and stuff. I don't have any, so just imagine that it's there. But I'll insert a picture here. So you can see what it actually looks like. But I'm telling you, I can't wait to dig in. Anyways, thanks so much for joining me today, and please like, share, and subscribe, and come back another day for sure. So I hope you try this, and I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, remember guys, peace, love, and happiness.